How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Phil Talk Sports Podcast. As he often is, Nick Rice is with me, and I hope everyone enjoyed Wild Card Weekend, the biggest Wild Card Weekend of all time, expanding 3 days. We're also going to break down the national championship, even though we're kind of late to that party, and then we're going to give you our divisional guesses and stuff. So it's just going to be a fun, pretty quick episode here today, but we wanted to get this in because the playoffs are in full swing. Nick, how's it going?
Pretty good. It was the biggest wild card weekend, but it wasn't the best because Herbert wasn't playing. But, we'll deal with, the other guys that were in there. We'll talk about all the drama. That was wild card weekend. But, yeah, it was pretty fun. And I'm looking forward to this weekend for sure.
And as you said, there was plenty of drama this week. But before we get to that, the last time that we spoke with you guys, we did preview the national championship. And while that is news that has passed and we're a little late to that party, we are going to give quick notes on that. I just want to say congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs for finally slaying the dragon. And well, first the Braves broke the sports curse, which will open the door, because if the Braves don't do that, there's no way the Bulldogs pull this off. I'm pretty convinced. So the Braves, they open the door just a bit, and then the Bulldogs push right through, and they beat Bama finally in a game that matters. And for all the marbles, Stetson Bennett becomes a folk hero, a guy of legend. And it was a great game, and I am happy for them just because they've been on the doorstep of it for so long. And I think it was good for college football what happened when Georgia ended with all the marbles.
Yeah, we were talking throughout the week about how Stetson Bennett probably is the one guy that's going to cost them the whole thing. And
right,
even when they took that huge lead, you just figured, Georgia, with how many times Atlanta sports has totally squandered leads, no offense to Atlanta in 2016 in the Super Bowl, but it was just an incredible run of just horrible luck for Atlanta teams. So for Georgia to pull that off is really cool. Alabama has been slain. The Kings have been knocked off the mountaintop for a year. We'll see how they respond. But yeah, really, really cool to see a new team hoist the trophy this year.
And, under no stretch of the imagination, I think Bama's going away, right? They're going to be right in the thick of things next year. My one little other piece of information I want to throw out here, obviously JT Daniels has transferred. That's a move that we all saw coming. Be interesting to see where he ends up. And for Bama fans out there, and Nick, I'm glad I was waiting for you to bring this up, so I'll just throw it under anyway. For the Bama fans that are blaming it on the injuries, particularly to the wide receiver position during the game, while I admit that was a factor, I would also file that under Cry Me a River, because you got five-star wide receivers everywhere. You probably have 5-star corners that haven't seen the field that could play wide receiver if they wanted. And I'm not saying it wasn't a factor, but nobody would have given Georgia any benefit of the doubt if one of their star players went down. So I don't put that into Bama's going to win if this doesn't happen. And even though that might, it's football. People get hurt all the time. And, Bama has been the benefactor. People got to remember this whole dynasty kicked off when a legendary Texas quarterback, Colt McCoy, got hurt in a national championship game. And that was the first Bama-Saban championship that kicked off this whole dynasty. So sometimes the injury taketh and the injury, give it back sometimes. So I don't use that as an excuse for what happened with Bama.
Digging back in the old archives, I like it. One thing, in terms of just on paper, the one thing going into this game, I think we both could agree, Georgia, if you take out the quarterback, was the better team this year. And a lot of pundits are saying, and, based on their evaluation, I'd probably agree with them that this was Georgia's year, that they had so many great players, kind of like that one LSU great season led by Joe Burrow.
Right. They weren't going to do that again. That was their year to do it, and they did it.
Exactly. So that was the vibe this season. And I don't know their exact graduating status and, the guys that are returning. But to me, it would just make sense. Like Georgia will probably not quite run the table in the SEC until they play Bama again next year.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's a thing about windows, and that's really and I'll talk about this more probably when we get to the NFL playoffs, but we are so used to the Patriots dynasty and the Bama dynasty now that people want to build teams that are going to be great for a decade, right? That's not how sports used to be. It was about building your team up for a window. That window might be one season. It might be 2 or 3 seasons. But you used to play to attack windows of greatness. Now people, and not everybody can pull off what Bama and the Patriots have done. I always equate it to working out. What may help someone lose weight doesn't work for somebody else. You got to figure out what works for you. And the
Mm-hmm.
way you build your team, LSU went all in for it. And Georgia had to painstakingly build this for 4 or 5 years. And while they're still going to be good next year, they got some guys coming back, some guys leaving, obviously. They're going to be good too. And Bama has some building up to do. They're going to be a very young team, which is something Bama doesn't tend to be. They got a lot of young guys. Obviously, they'll have Bryce Young coming back. That's going to be helpful. But yeah, congrats to Georgia, and look forward to college football already. I'm already missing it. The spring game UCF's in April, so I'm already counting down the days for that. April 16th, I'll be there at noon. So yeah, that's my next little dose of college football we have coming on here.
Yeah, we're gonna miss that random Tuesday afternoon. Oh, the Doritos Chip Bowl, the Poinsettia Bowl. Oh, dang it! Already looking forward to that again.
Right. Bowl season is both way too long and way too short at the same time,
yeah,
in my opinion, for
definitely.
sure. So yeah, wild card weekend, we had the longest one in history, spanning 3 days. Before we get to any game, I just want to ask you straight up, the Monday night wild card game, did you love it or hate it? Not the game itself, but the game being on Monday.
I don't know about you, but I actually didn't watch it. I didn't watch it. It was just on Monday. I just had stuff to do. Didn't feel like watching a third straight day.
So while I did watch it, you are in. I talked to more people than the NFL would like to hear that said the same thing, that they had something else to do. They were so like. So I guess I'll rephrase then. The idea of it on Monday, like, would you have rather just been able to catch all the games on a Saturday and Sunday? NFL games on Saturday, I'm still not fully comfortable with. I understand they're making it the new normal, but I'd rather just have the Saturday, Sunday, and get all my games. Obviously, it's just the one game. They're not going to do that with divisional games, or certainly not the conference championship or anything. But I'm not a fan of the Monday game, even though the game itself, I did watch it, and we'll get to it. But the Rams really overpowering the Cardinals was surprising to watch for sure. It has nothing to do with the game being a blowout that made me not like it. I just wish going into Monday morning, I wish I would have known all the teams already going to the next round.
Right. Yeah. No, the exact same way. Just a little too long here. And then also you're thinking about the turnaround, because if I'm not mistaken, the Rams play early Sunday after playing Monday night.
Yep.
And that's at least 24, if not 36-hour advantage for the rest of the NFL. Bucks, it's 24 hours because they played on the Sunday morning. Actually, 36. They played Sunday early. Rams played Monday night. So you're getting into now teams getting a strategic advantage too. So all that being said, it just, to me, was a fun experiment, but Saturday, Sunday is the way to be.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that the avenue that aired that game, I think they paid $70 million for the right to that one game. And in comparison, I think a Monday Night Football game is 20 a pop during the season. So it's the equivalent of paying for like 3 Monday Night Football games to get that one wild card playoff game.
I just love how certain windows are closed for the playoffs, like Thursday night football. Could you imagine a Thursday night football playoff game? It just wouldn't make any sense.
There's a reason we don't have a Thursday night football game the last week of the season, because we don't want everyone to be done. But, if the Browns lose to the Seahawks, Pittsburgh's in, we don't want those weird scenarios anymore. Definitely not. So there's a reason there's no Thursday night football the last week of the season. And it's the same reason there shouldn't be a Monday night game, I think, in my opinion. I wouldn't be shocked if they take one more crack at this and, next year, but we'll see for sure. As far as the wild card weekend games go, I'm going to classify these into 2 subsections. We had blowouts and we had non-blowouts. And
usually I think there's none in the blowout section, but this year there was.
So I think we should just cover all the blowout games first, right? I think that's probably the easiest way to get those done. We'll start with the Eagles and Bucks, just because that was truly one of the more lopsided games. This game, in a way, really went exactly the way the regular season game went. The Bucks came up big. The Eagles scored a lot of points in garbage time. And when you look at the score, 31-15, kind of close, sort of maybe. And then you look at the ticker and you see that the Eagles scored all 15 points in the fourth quarter. So, there is a version of this. If you remember, I picked the Bucks, but I said, if you like the Eagles, you might like the 8.5 points that you're giving them. That obviously didn't pan out. If they had scored one more garbage touchdown, we might be in business for that. Not that I was able to bet on it, but I'm sure some people did.
Yeah, you cost some people money, Phil.
Yeah, I'm sure it was me. I mean, the guy that can't even legally bet yet, I wouldn't be taking betting advice from me. But there is a version of this game that the Eagles maybe win and definitely cover. There's definitely a version of this game where the Eagles cover. But this was your standard Hurts really bad game. There's been some Hurts pretty darn good games and some decent games, and this was not one of those. I understand we had some injuries, but the Bucs have some injuries too. The defense did what they could early, and this was just not a game that Hurts. And I don't want to say the moment was too big for him. It didn't really feel that way. This was just an example of the Bucs keeping him in the pocket, making him try and throw, and it's no secret that's how you try and beat them. But this game went about as bad as I was expected, and like I said, if you don't score these garbage time points, it looks even worse. And we'll probably talk about the future of Jalen Hurts in a future episode because we're just talking about games today. But hit the wrong button there. Sorry. I there's definitely a version of this game that goes better, but this is about what I expected in this game. I didn't know the Bucs could maybe get to 31. I thought it'd be more of a, but if they don't, this game looks close, really close at the end of it. But this is about what I expected in this game. If you're going to get a bad Jalen Hurts game, points don't come very often, and 15 is almost more than I was expecting, given his performance.
Well, we came in feeling like the Bucs were, just overall, the Eagles would have had to play a fantastic game for them to even be in it at the very end. Mm-hmm. But to me, I felt the Bucs showed you from the first series that they're going to crowd the box and dare Hurts to throw it. And clearly, I think, they were smart to do so. But I also believe that the coaching staff kind of played into that a little bit. Watching the first third down of the game, and they run with two tight ends, a read option for Hurts. And there was like $4 in the backfield. It's like, that's kind of how the game's going to go today, is it? And then, of course, you had to throw in a roughing the passer penalty that kept a couple Brady touchdown drives alive. I was like, all right, well, here we go. Mm-hmm. In terms of, to me, the play calling, I thought way too consistent. They were running the ball and they were playing right into the Bucs' hands. I think they could have been a little more aggressive than they were in the first half of that game.
The other important note to make on this, and this is the Eagles' other big problem, obviously Devontae Smith has seemed to be a good draft pick and someone that was worth his first round status. And as a team that has 3 first-round picks this year, if Jalen's going to be your guy for at least another year, you need to get him more help because it was, they couldn't even really target Devontae Smith throughout this game because of how quick the pressure was coming. So if you have, and obviously Dallas Goedert's pretty good, but as far as straight up receivers downfield, if you guys are trying to tell me that this guy's still the future, you got to get him more help. And that's really my last bit of notes on this game. Like this guy is probably good enough with talent around him to win you some games, a division title, what have you, but he's not going to do it on his own. I think that much is abundantly clear after a full season of Jalen Hurts.
Right. Yes, and then Tampa Bay just pounced on it. Brady and the Bucs, I think they scored 4 or 5 drives to start the game, something like that. It was pretty efficient.
They scored 14 in the first. They held them to only 3 in the second, and in the third they scored 2 more touchdowns. They didn't score any in the fourth because at that point they're up 31-0. It's probably more of a question of do you take Brady out at that point is what we were waiting to see. But yeah, they when they jumped on him early, they could kind of coast a little way. And if anyone knows how to play with a lead, it's someone like Tom Brady. This next game, you mentioned you didn't really watch the Monday game. I didn't spend a lot of time watching this one. The other blowout is the Chiefs and Steelers because I kind of knew where this was going to go. And really, the game looks closer than it really was. They only won by 3 touchdowns, but this was never really a game. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
I did watch a lot of the first half and then started peeking the second half, thinking, wow, like when Watt had the scoop and score, we might have a game here. But
I did see that.
Scored 6 straight times. There was a lot of stories about the Bills scoring 7 straight touchdowns.
Yeah, which we'll talk
clearly
about.
You should. That's a record. But the Chiefs, they quietly did almost the same thing against a very good defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that Chiefs offense showed in the wild card game a little glimpse of what it was like a couple of years ago when they would fall behind and then they would all of a sudden get out of bed and realize, oh, we have a game to play. And they would just turn into Mike Tyson's superhuman strength and just knock you out, like not just beat you, totally knock you out. So that Chiefs offense is so good right now.
And while it hasn't been official, it's been the worst kept secret in the league. I guess we can call this Ben Roethlisberger's last game, right? He hasn't made it. He hasn't made it official. He hasn't really said much about it, but he hasn't gone out of his way to make any of that talk. It
was like Drew Brees. Remember him a year or 2 ago? It took him like 4 months to finally say it.
Yeah. So maybe it's going to be like that. But I mean, I think we all know the Steelers shouldn't have really been in the playoffs. So this is really just an extra game on that Big Ben tour. So, it is what it is. And, heck of a career for him, for sure. The other blowout is on Monday. So let's just do the Sunday games first. We'll do them in order, I guess. So the Bengals Raiders ended up being a pretty fun game. I only got the second half of this because I was working a basketball game for the first half, but I got home for the second half.
Nice.
The big questions for this was, how did you feel about the touchdown that maybe shouldn't have been a touchdown? In my opinion, that ball was getting caught in the end zone regardless. When that whistle got blown, I don't think the Raiders secondary just stopped playing. To me, I feel like that touchdown happens. Because if it doesn't, it wasn't a loss of down. They would just replay that third down. And yeah, maybe they don't score on that play, but maybe they get a first down and they score 3 plays later. So I know Raiders fans will look at that play, but even if that happens, you still got to score. Even if they hold them to a field goal, you would have still needed to score a touchdown on that last drive that got intercepted anyway. So I think it's just a hard-fought win from the Bengals, first playoff win in 31 years.
Yeah, so I'll kind of recap what the first half was like. But before I get to that, just a quick side note. This was one of the most frustrating games to watch I've ever watched in a playoff game in terms of officiating. It seemed every penalty, it took the officials 5 minutes to finally announce what it was. Yeah. I mean, that
carried over into the Niners-Cowboys game too, actually.
Oh, did it?
The amount of time it took them to figure stuff out was ridiculous, but go on.
Yeah, so it was announced that officiating crew will not officiate another playoff game. So that was probably their C list or D list officiating crew.
Yeah.
And that was, and some of the calls they made. I hope no officials get too offended by this, but it was frustrating. Chase was catching that ball. Was it Chase? I forget, but
I think so. I think so.
I believe it was Chase. If not, it was Tyler Boyd catching that ball. There was no Raider within 3 or 4 yards of him. Yeah. So that, and 2, Joe Burrow is turning into a superstar before our eyes. I mean, some of the throws he made were just silly. It was, and the Raiders gave him everything they had.
They pushed back after a while. It looked like the Bengals were going to run away with it for a minute, and then the Raiders, pulled it back in. This was almost not a game in the fourth quarter, and the Raiders did enough that they kept it close for sure.
Right. And, Joe Burrow was fitting into windows that were obnoxiously small. Like one on the Bengals' final scoring drive, he threw about a 30-yard pass to his tight end, CJ Uzuma. The linebacker was in such great position that the only way for the tight end to catch it was with his right hand down at his knees. And great catch, of course, but Joe Burrow was incredible, every bit as good as any young quarterback in the league, and that's from a Charger fan talking about Justin Herbert too. He's as good as it gets among young quarterbacks. And Derek Carr, shout out to his first playoff game, he was almost as good as Joe Burrow too.
He had a great game for sure.
Just a little bit worse, especially early on. He missed some throws, and that was it. He was about a A- quarterback. And against Joe Burrow, he lost that game. So 2 great quarterbacks. It was an old-fashioned shootout, but Joe Burrow was just a little bit better.
The way I felt too when was it Azura? Is that how you say it? His last name, right? Azuma. When he scored, I felt like the vibe was the Raiders going, so we got to worry about Chase. We got to worry about Higgins, right? And then this other guy can find the end zone. I think that really kind of hurt the secondary because they knew it needed to be done. So it's like, if this other receiver is going to have the game of his life, then what chance do we have? But definitely a good game with bad officiating. The one that everybody's zoned in on, I didn't think was that big of a deal. But like you said, there was a lot of other smaller ones throughout the day.
There's some games, where I felt like the officials did a good job, getting involved whenever there was clearly an egregious penalty. But to me, it was like officials trying to be superheroes. I think there was something like 20 penalties, which made the game drag on forever. And a lot of it was like, are you serious? But it is what it is. Still a great game.
So let's go with the other, really the blowout. The most surprising blowout, I think, was the 0 degree, but still turned out to be arena football style game. The Bills crushed the Patriots by 30, and everybody was talking about, it's going to be 0 degrees out here. They're just going to run the ball. The Patriots beat them without throwing the ball. Maybe they can do something very similar. And the Bills went out there like it was 70 degrees and sunny. They were throwing the ball everywhere, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns for Josh Allen, just everything. If these games like to get nicknames, this one might be called like the perfect game at Buffalo or something. Because like every drive was a touchdown except for the last drive, which was kneeling the ball. That was like, which I don't know if that's ever happened before in that exact way. Absolutely crazy. The Patriots.
It's never happened before.
Yeah, when that first pass got intercepted by Mac Jones into the end zone after the Bills had already scored the one time, it was just open season on their butts. And this was like 20 years in the making of the Patriots owning them. Yes, Brady's not there. Belichick still is. The tickets to this game were only like $40 because they were concerned. One, the weather was going to keep people away. And two, there's actually a big Bills fan base in Canada because they're right on the border, and those people couldn't cross the border due to COVID issues right now. So they were worried there wasn't going to be people, and that ended up being a silly thing to worry about because that place was packed.
Yeah. Right before the game, I believe his name is Jordan Poyer,
yes.
spoke to his defense and said, this is the end of an era. Be ready for the end of an era because he's gotten his butt handed to him for years by Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And I gotta be honest. I think he's right. I think the Patriots put a huge splash in free agency to prepare for a playoff run here. They've got a quarterback in a rookie deal, playing better than a rookie deal right now. Mac Jones was statistically the best rookie quarterback in the NFL, with a defense that brought back the COVID returns who held out in the 2020 year. They had 2 good tight ends. They had a better receiving core. They were relatively healthy, and they got completely smacked. And, I hate to doubt Bill Belichick, but as great as the Bills were, I just have this feeling like a little bit of that was the Patriots not being the same team anymore without Tom Brady. So this was a butt whooping. And while the Bills are really, really good, I think it exposed that the Patriots and Bill Belichick, crazy enough to say, maybe aren't quite as good as we thought.
Yeah, and there's really not much else to say. This was not a game past like the first 3-4 minutes of it. Good for Buffalo. I know some people might be worried, like, was this their Super Bowl? Are they gonna have it to bring it back? I think, like you said, this is the start of something. This wasn't the culmination of it. The Bengals is more of a thing, like we finally got that monkey off our back. And I'm a little concerned with how they might look going into Tennessee. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is different. This is the start of something, I think, for Buffalo. And they got to play Kansas City, a team that beat them in the championship game last year. And I'm sure they haven't forgotten about that either. So great game by the Bills. So this was like the one everyone obviously wanted to talk about. It was all over Nickelodeon. How could you not want to talk about this? 40 million people watched this game total, which was crazy.
Wow.
One of the highest rated games in the modern era, you could say. But it was different year, same story for the Cowboys, the Niners. The Niners came out swinging, right? They were up to 16-0. They really probably could have scored another time. I think they had a turnover or something. The Cowboys get the touchdown, 16-7. You wonder, is that enough to keep the Niners ahead? It comes down to the last possession. We have the weird
Niners scored again, so it was 23-7, by the way.
Right.
So Cowboys.
And it was one of those, I forget what I was going to go do, but I'm like, this game isn't close enough for me to, or the lead isn't big enough for me to walk away and go do whatever I was going to go do. So I ended up having to watch the entire game, obviously. And then we had the infamous, 14 seconds left, no timeouts, better run up to the middle of the field. And like, I know people want to complain about the referees and stuff. I mean, they have to spot the ball and everything. And there's a like a thing in the NFL where like, if you're going to do a play like that, the cutoff point is like 16 or 17 seconds. If you want to try it with 14 seconds, like that's on you, and it didn't work. So while nothing, Jimmy G his stats don't look great. We've seen he made it all the way to the Super Bowl with stats like that. So this was a little peek into the past of that Niners team, and good win for them. And I don't know where the Cowboys go from here, because this team has talent everywhere, and to still not win a playoff game with this, nucleus of people and everything is crazy to me.
Well, first of all, I'd like to, see if you agree with me on this too. But I felt like the story that gets lost in that last drive was that the 49ers were playing way too conservative defense. where the Cowboys were getting every sideline throw that they wanted.
Yeah.
And they could have gotten 2 more first downs if they kept that, sideline thing going, throwing just quick outs, throws in the middle, little receiver tosses, the guys running out of bounds. A creative play call throughout the drive makes you wonder where that creative play calling was in the first half. But when it comes to that last 14 seconds, to me, it was silly to think that getting 10 yards would help you much at all when you're throwing from about the 40-yard line anyways. And I thought the 49ers let them have a chance in the end, and the Cowboys did typical Cowboy things when in reality you had 2 or 3 heaves of the end zone from the 40 already in the bag. You had a defense giving you first down throws of the sideline already. And to me, I just felt the Cowboys got way too nervous in that situation. They were given a chance, and it's life of a Cowboy fan where it ends the way that it ended, where they didn't even get a chance to throw the end zone.
What it really comes down to is, do you want one shot to the end zone from the 24 or 2 to 3 plays from like the 37? And they went with the other one that wouldn't have, which ended up not working out anyway. That's the way I look at that. Yes, they did play a little too conservative.
Prescott could throw it from like the 40 of his own side. Like, I don't get that.
Is there anybody you have less faith in than Kyle Shanahan with a lead? Like, is there any walk of life that you would trust a human being less than that?
Well, apparently Mike McCarthy with a lead the last 10 years.
Here's the thing. A lot of people are blaming it on Kellen Moore. I don't know why that's I don't know that he's the de facto, he calls the play and it goes to Dak. I'm sure McCarthy has problems with that or whatever, or has input in that.
I don't know how much, it's crazy with the Cowboys. How much does Mike McCarthy do with the offense, and how much does Kellen Moore do with the offense? Yeah. And I think McCarthy has his fingerprints on quite a bit of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. It's like Office Space. What exactly do you do here? I don't know their process. We had this story break with the Dolphins early in the year when they went 1-7. They basically had 3 people. They had a group tank think about each play call. 3 guys got to decide the play call, and they all had to agree on it, and then they send it in. That sounds like nonsense, right? So I don't know the process for the Cowboys either. The last wild card game we have here is another surprising blowout here. The Rams just completely smother the Cardinals. The Rams have been up and down this year, but it looks like they're peaking at the right time. Odell has a great game. Cooper does his thing. Sony Michel does decent on the ground. They bring back Cam Akers, who, while he's still getting in the groove of things, had 90 yards from scrimmage. He had a big 40-yard catch from Odell. They ran a trick play or whatever. They were out there having fun. Sean McVay was doing what he was doing. And it's just amazing how bad this Cardinals team plays when they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. That's what it comes down to for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got to admit, and I picked the Cardinals, actually, for those who watched last week, to win this game, because they have as much talent as the Rams, offense and defense. But Cliff Kingsbury, to me, he was horrible in this game. And since Thanksgiving, the last 2 years, the Cardinals have been horrible as a team. And to me, that comes down to a coaching staff that's very predictable with a great talented roster. They don't make any adjustments, and teams start figuring them out. And, I had a sneaky feeling that Sean McVay is such a good coach that he would figure out the Cardinals given a playoff game situation. And he did. And I feel kind of silly for picking the Cardinals to begin with, but the Rams are so good, and can't wait to see them next week against a team that's going to have a good game plan, that's going to, be ready to go. And that's the Bucs, unlike the Cardinals.
Yeah, and that's a good way to segue right into the divisional round games. We'll go through these in order. I already hinted at this one, so it's a good one we can start on. The Bengals coming off for their first playoff win in 31 years. Funny enough, their last playoff win was against the Raiders in the infamous game that injured Bo Jackson. They've talked about that a lot this week, so that was kind of interesting. So, playing the Raiders 31 years apart, pretty crazy. But they're playing the Titans, who are the number 1 seed, who nobody is talking about. They do have Derrick Henry back. I don't know if he's 100%, but a 90% Derrick Henry is better than 100% of most other guys. So that's still an improvement for sure. I do think I got to go with Tennessee here. They're 3.5-point favorites, which is just a tad more than, the fact that they're home. Usually home team gets 3 points. So they're saying Derrick Henry is worth half a point is the way I'm looking at that. And I like the Bengals a lot. I would like to be wrong in this situation, but this seems like earlier in the year when we were really getting hot with the Bengals and then they lost to the Jets. They just take that stumble. I think after this playoff win, they're going to be riding high. And I would kind of like to see them push forward, but I think Tennessee's had way too much time to rest. And if Derrick Henry's at 90% or anything higher than that, they can control this whole game. They can keep, as exciting as the Bengals offense is, they can keep it off the field if they want, if they can, use Derrick Henry throughout the game.
I'm just, daydreaming during the week, thinking about the teams that are going to be in the conference championship game. And I could see every team in the AFC make it except for the Bengals. It just feels to me like this is, they've got a joyride like you talked about, but this just wouldn't make sense for them to go to the number 1 seed and win. And I brought it up before this week that Tennessee is one of the weakest 1 seeds I've ever seen. It's like, right. I don't even understand what they do great without Derrick Henry for them to get this. And they won as high a percentage without Henry as they did with him. So it, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I just think the Titans, it just makes more sense for them that they would advance. And that's my A-level, professor level analysis of this game. It just makes more sense.
Let me ask you this one question before we move on. If the Titans had Derrick Henry all year, right? They won 12 games. Maybe they win 2 more. So maybe they're 14-2. And they've had Derrick Henry the whole time. Derrick Henry probably cracks the 2,000-yard mark because he was on a tear. Would you feel any differently if we haven't seen the Titans without Derrick Henry for a month leading up to this? Do you think you'd feel any different?
You're talking about if Henry doesn't play in this game?
No. If he never got hurt and we got to see him all year, they maybe win another game or 2. He probably breaks 2,000 yards, probably sets all these records. Would you probably feel different about Tennessee then?
I feel a little bit better about Tennessee when he went out, how they responded. I think that told me a little more about the coaching of Mike Vrabel too, who I think should be coach of the year. But this is this still is, with them out and winning, a team that I think is one of the weaker 1 seeds that we've seen in a while.
That brings us to it's hard to call what game is like the main event of the weekend here, but I think for classic NFL fans, you see these 2 logos next to each other in a playoff game, and it just brings back memories, much like we had San Fran and Dallas. We have San Fran and Green Bay, and my issue. So the 49ers are just a tough team. Like, they're on paper, they're right there with the Bengals. Like, it's somewhat of an upset, in my opinion, that they beat the Cowboys, right? On the Packers, and I say this every year, the past several years anyway, the Packers won the Super Bowl. It would not surprise me. But if the Packers got bounced in the first round, that also wouldn't surprise me. So I don't know where to go here. I mean, this is in Green Bay. I don't know what the it looks like it's going to be 12 degrees at kickoff.
19 degrees and snowy.
And the Packers are 8-0 at home. I mean, the Niners, we've seen this twice in recent memory. We have the Raheem Mostert game, and then there's the Colin Kaepernick game, right? In the playoffs, in the snow, in Lambeau. Those two great performances made that
There's
happen.
Actually a third one I'm forgetting, but apparently he's 0-3 against Aaron Rodgers against San Fran in the playoffs. I'm trying to think, there
must have been an Alex Smith era one that I'm not thinking of.
Right.
But yeah, so that 0-3 against San Fran versus 8-0 at home this season. Like I said, the Packers are always wishy-washy, but I'm going to go Green Bay on this one.
I think that's a smart choice. I'll do the same. I think that the fourth quarter for San Francisco, how they were up 23-7 with 9 minutes left, and somehow they are playing at their own 25 with a chance to lose the game for the Cowboys at their end, throwing the ball, and they just decide to do the dumbest play, one of the dumbest plays I've seen in a while, with 14 seconds left.
Right.
So the Packers are a team that, to me, was fired up all year, and this is their Super Bowl. And I think San Francisco is just not going to be quite good enough. I can't quite see an upset here. I think the Packers are determined this season to right their wrongs. And really, they had not just the bye week this week, but they didn't play much at all against Detroit. So I think they'll be rested and ready, and I think they take care of business.
And you brought up a great point, like the way the time management, that's always been the bugaboo of Mike McCarthy, right? And whether you like Aaron Rodgers or not, and he hasn't made a lot of friends with his behavior this year throughout, everything going on, he's one of the greatest at time management we've ever seen, right? I think there can be no argument for that. So even if the 49ers have some sort of lead late in the game, you're not going to feel comfortable about it, right? So that's you kind of just jogged my memory on that.
He was the OC of that Atlanta Super Bowl too, so
right.
Go along with
so going into the fourth, if the Niners are up 10, like, okay, game on. Like, that's what Rodgers lives for. So I think it'd be really hard to pick against Green Bay. Moving into the Sunday games, it's going to warm up a little bit. It'll be 60 degrees when the Rams kick off against Tampa. But if you ask most Florida natives, that's still too cold for them. Not me. I'll enjoy the cold weather, but a lot of other people not a big fan. This one's really interesting because I think the Rams are getting hot at the right time. They beat the Bucs in the regular season. All the stuff I said last week about them not being 100% and the Eagles maybe can capitalize on it. The Rams are obviously a lot more talented than the Eagles on offense and defense. If Odell's getting going like he did last week, I can't just go down the line and pick every favorite. I might have to go with the Rams on this one.
I'm gonna have to pick against the Rams yet again. I think Tampa, while they are missing a couple of guys for this game, they announced Fournette is out and Cyril Grayson is out. I think that's his first name. They should have quite a bit of their firepower back. Tampa playing as well as they did against Philly, I think, impressed me a lot. And to me, you still have the factor of Matt Stafford being playoff Matt Stafford. He's 1-3 all time after that win last week against Arizona, but he's going up against a more well-coached defense this go around. And there's something about when a quarterback like him knows that he's going to have to put up 30 points to match Tom Brady and his output. How is he going to respond to that? And one other thing that really impressed me too is that, if I'm not mistaken, was Philly the best run defense in the NFL? I know they were the best run offense.
Yeah, if they weren't, they were up there for sure.
They were up there, and Tampa was able to control the clock. So I think they'll be able to do a similar type role against the Rams because we all know Aaron Donald is great, but this year the Rams were not quite the defense they were last season. And I think Tampa could run the ball against that. And I think that'll put a lot of pressure on Matt Stafford. And I don't think that he'll respond well in that sort of circumstance, even with Sean McVay by his side. It should be a very, very good game. But I just kind of see that playing out. Tampa controls the ball. Stafford has good moments, but makes one or two mistakes that'll cost him in the end.
I mean, I could see it, honestly, the more you say that. I'm not going to change my pick, but you made a very good case there. The Rams, when they win, they kind of do it with style points, right? Brady, in his career with this Bucs team, like, he doesn't care how they win. He just cares about winning. And for people that are out there, Phil, you're a Florida native, you're betting against the one Florida team in the playoffs. I picked against the Bucs all year, all postseason last year, and look where that ended them. So I'm just trying to stay consistent. If it worked, I will say this.
Once earlier or something.
I will throw this out there though. If the Bucs win, I would pick them against the Niners or the Packers, 100%.
Really?
So, so to me, I guess what I'm trying to say is the winner of this game, the Rams against the Packers. I know we'll talk about we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But if they can beat the Rams, I think they can beat the Packers. That's just my opinion.
Well, listen, I mean, I got to tell you, the one opportunity that the Rams have to win this game is if Bruce Arians just can't stop punching his own teammates.
That's
it was true. Anthony Adams last week, but if he gets kicked out, then I don't know who to pick.
I don't know, man, because then you got the hottest coaching carousel member, Byron Leftwich, ready to call some plays for you. So you never know. That could be, maybe they got to kick Arians out and they just keep it rolling with Byron. You never know. Last game, we already touched on it for a minute. The Bills and Chiefs rematch of the AFC Championship last year. We're getting it one round earlier. It'll be 36 degrees when this kicks off in Arrowhead, and the Chiefs are a 2-point favorite. I picked the Chiefs last year because I was, we saw what they did the year before, and it's like, who can beat them? The Bills didn't seem quite ready for that moment. And I picked the Chiefs, and that ended up working out. I remember that. I went back and watched our episode, and I had picked the Chiefs. The Bills seem to be in a much better position here. They're coming off of just getting that monkey off their back against the Patriots. The Chiefs are good, not great this year. And when you're coming off that game, if you're Josh Allen, like you feel like you can walk on water and, the end zone's on the other side of it. I think, we're going to be blessed with this quarterback battle in the playoffs for many years to come with Mahomes and Allen. Yeah. And, Mahomes got round one. And I kind of think Josh Allen's going to get round two here. So I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Interesting. I got a question before I dive in here. To me, this is the AFC Championship game.
Agreed.
Where the winner of this makes the Super Bowl. Do you agree?
I agree 100%.
Okay. All right. This is such a good game. And they put it last. So all of our fun, all of our football fans got to suffer through, not that the other games aren't great, but this is awesome.
I'd say 3 of the 4 games are good. And that's all you can really ask for. There's always one,
For sure.
There's always one.
So and lucky for them, the winner of that game that you talk about will have extra time to prepare. They threw him on early on Saturday, so we'll forget about it quickly. To me, you mentioned it. The Bills are better prepared this go around. The Chiefs scored, I think, there was like 28 of the 31 points after they fell behind last year in the AFC Championship. They just went on a crazy roll. That will not happen this year. This is your old-fashioned shootout in the divisional round. I think there's going to be, whatever the over is, there's going to be an insane betting spree on the over for great reason. This should be just an incredible game. I kind of want to wait a little longer to make a decision, but I guess the playoff game's coming up here. So
exactly. Yeah, we're kicking off here pretty soon. You got to make your choice.
Kansas City is such a small favorite. Vegas is almost saying pick them 1.5 points. So I'm still going to go Chiefs. I trust Andy Reid and Mahomes a little bit more right now, but I could see it going either way. I think the one storyline that will play a role in this game is that Josh Allen, while he's getting better and more refined, I do believe that he has a tendency to have a roller coaster throughout a year where he plays amazing one week and then drops off the next week. And I could see a situation where Josh Allen kind of struggles early because the team comes in confident after last week. That's just my feeling. And I think the Chiefs are, while they dominated the Steelers, they're not quite the buzz team right now. I think more people feel like, oh, this is Buffalo's year. Yeah. And for great reason. Sure. But I always love a team a little more when they come in a little under the radar. And I think that's the Chiefs right now. But we'll see. It should be a fantastic game.
A lot of great football in these playoffs already and a lot more to come. So thank you guys for watching and listening. Enjoy the playoffs. We'll see you next week. Tell a friend to tell a friend, because we're just going through all these playoffs. And we're going to have a little special guest too. Someone who hasn't been on the show before we do the Super Bowl. So that's a tease. That's what we call in the business, a tease. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the playoffs.